What's up, dudes? We just came out of seeing Joker. This is my second time watching Joker. This was your first.
Yeah, this is my first. He popped my Joker cherry.
Yes, the pot. Yeah, oh god, yeah. But like, this is the spoiler discussion. If you want the spoiler free review, it's on my channel. But this is gonna be chock full of spoilers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's a lot to unpack. Like, oddly, it's not as spoiler heavy as I'd say with Endgame, but like, because like you would think a movie like Joker doesn't have that many spoilers, but like, there's
a lot to talk about.
Yeah, there is. You know, if you saw my review, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Like, I think it might be the best comic book movie I've seen since Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, even surpassing Logan. It took a lot. I mean, I had to really process it, but man, like, this movie is so different and so good. What are your thoughts on it?
I really like it. It's kind of like a first for me in seeing something that sort of treats itself as like a character study of something as controversial as a villain.
Oh yeah.
Because on some level, I felt that a lot of the things that he went through and talked about were very like relatable things, and I feel like, you know, depending on who you are, that might give you some mixed feelings about like what you're watching, you know, being able to relate to an absolute lunatic. But I loved it. I thought they did a really good job of giving a sort of a combination origin story that's like partly original, but also partly sort of taken from things like The Killing Joke. Yep. And stuff like that to make it into a movie. I thought it was really good. It's definitely been my favorite comic book movie this year. I really do think I would benefit from seeing it again because I'm sure I missed a few things, but like overall, I was very happy with the decision to go see it, and I thought they did a really good job with pretty much everything in the movie. The violence was awesome. The Joaquin Phoenix did a fantastic job playing the Joker.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about Joaquin Phoenix.
And the music was awesome. Was that Robert De Niro?
Oh yeah, that was Robert De Niro.
See, I thought that was Robert De Niro, and I really liked him in this movie too. I think there's a movie called The King of Comedy, directed by
Martin
Scorsese. Yeah, I love that movie, and seeing him in the role that he was in sort of gave me vibes similar to that movie. This whole movie in general really actually kind of reminded me of The King of Comedy.
I think like Todd Phillips, the guy who directed this film and wrote it, like I think he actually went in with the like, you know, saying that this is like his biggest inspirations for this movie were King of Comedy and Taxi Driver.
Yeah, the two movies that I absolutely love.
I've not seen those two movies.
They're really good, especially Taxi Driver. I love them both, but if you have a chance to see one or the other, I'd strongly recommend Taxi Driver. Now that I think about it, this movie gave me a lot of the same feelings and vibes that Taxi Driver gave me too. You can kind of see parallels running in between the two. Yeah.
I think when Todd Phillips was pitching this movie to Warner Brothers, I think, if I'm not remembering it correctly, he was also accompanied by Martin Scorsese, who was pitching. They were both pitching this movie to Warner Brothers, and which I think is such a great idea. They've said that this is a one and done comic book movie. Like, they're not going to do any Now, of course, the movie is blowing up the box office right now. So, I mean,
That's
money.
Not a surprise to me.
I mean, money talks. So, I mean, who knows?
I hope they follow it up with something, because there's a lot of things they could do. Especially, do you care if I talk about the ending?
Well, I mean, this is a spoiler review. I mean,
especially with the ending, with how they showed like the lead up to what happened to Martha and Thomas Wayne.
Oh man,
that was wonderfully executed. I'm glad that they didn't decide to make it so that the Joker killed his parents. I mean, you could kind of look at it as the Joker killing his parents, because had he not have started this movement, they probably wouldn't have died. But I would really like a further glimpse into what kind of a Batman that would create, and what kind of relationship, if any, that would create between him and the Joker. Because the Joker in this movie, I want to say he was maybe in his late 30s, early 40s. He'd be like pretty fucking old by the time Bruce Wayne came in. He'd be like 50s, maybe in his 60s. So I don't know if he'd be able to really keep up with, you know, pulling those Joker antics. But I'd still like to see it. I definitely would like to see it.
I personally am perfect. I kind of like the fact. I kind of like that this is just a one and done standalone movie, because it's like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love cinematic universes. I love the MCU, but I think we can have a world where we do both cinematic universes that have a bunch of sequels and whatnot, and the standalone movies.
Yeah, because it gives people, a lot of people, chances to sort of offer their own interpretation of characters, and that's really what I liked the most about this movie. It offered a fairly different and original take on the Joker, with things that have never really been explored or done before in movies relating to him. I mean, we've never really had a movie that had a villain. An obvious villain is like the main character, at least not one as big as the Joker. But I thought that they did a really good job doing this, especially with like how kind of hard you would think such a task would be. Like, generally speaking, he's not the sort of supposed to be the person that you can relate to.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he's a lunatic. But in this movie, they do a really good job of making him a relatable character, and almost making him seem sort of justified or reasonable in the things that he does. Because, like, I don't want to say that I was rooting for him the whole movie, but like, you
can see where he's coming from.
Yeah, exactly. I could definitely see why somebody in that situation would be driven to do the things that he did.
Yeah, like first of all, Joaquin Phoenix, like, oh my god, like,
he killed it.
Joaquin Phoenix has been really good in movies, but I'm gonna be honest, this might be the performance of his entire career.
I don't know. I mean
maybe, but like,
my favorite Joaquin Phoenix role so far still is Children of Men.
Wait, no, he wasn't in Children of Men.
Who was that?
That was Clive Owen.
Clive Owens. You're right. They look similar.
Yeah.
Then I'd probably say this is a very, very good contender. If you've never seen Vice, that was another one of his.
Oh, Inherent Vice.
Inherent Vice. Yeah. That was another one of his movies that I really liked. Inherent Vice was really good, but I do think he really stole the show. He did a fantastic job. He gave a fantastic performance. His line delivery was, for lack of a better word, perfect. You could see that he was really into the character, and that this was a role that he put like 110% effort into, because he really killed, especially with how weird he looked without clothes on, dude.
Oh my god, like that scene where like, I don't know what, it was some sort of scene where like, oh yeah, like he was sitting next to his mother and he was laughing at something really dark on TV, and his ribs were fucking gross.
I remember when he was sitting on the couch smoking that cigarette, and then Thomas Wayne was on the TV talking about the
Clowns?
subway murders. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So anyways, yeah, and then you just see him sitting there like, dude, it was
he was gross,
creepy. He was a creepy guy, especially the scene where he's like putting on the green hair dye and doing the makeup and stuff. Dude, that was just creepy, dude.
Yeah.
It was borderline horror movie material.
Exactly. That's what I've always talked about when I talk about this movie. From a certain point of view, you could see this as a horror movie.
Yeah, like a slasher flick, maybe. I
mean, not even a slasher flick, because, like, for me, the scariest part about this movie is that I could honestly see this happening in Huntington in a few years if this doesn't get better. If things don't get, like, it's not good in Huntington, West Virginia. So, and like,
it's not good in most parts of West Virginia, bro.
Yeah,
you guys are going through a quote unquote heroin epidemic. It's not even quote unquote about it. You guys are going through one.
Yeah, this state is we're in a bad place right now, and
don't you remember a few years ago where they had like that whole clown thing, like people dressing up as clowns, and somebody, I don't know if anybody killed anybody, but you had like reports of people being assaulted or people like doing a bunch of creepy shit and standing around outside of people's cars in West Virginia and stuff.
Wait, you're talking about the killer, like the clown people, like were chasing.
Yeah.
I don't even think it was just West Virginia. I think it was like that was like a meme that was happening all over the United States. I mean, it wasn't a good meme. It was scary, but like,
yeah. But it reminded me. I thought about that a few times when I was watching this movie.
Yeah, like, oh my god, and like, what another thing I loved about this movie that also goes in like the horror aspect. The music was haunting.
Yeah, no, for real. It was really good at like building up suspense and making you feel super tense on the inside.
Yeah, like especially the bathroom scene. Oh my god, that bathroom scene was. Oh, it was that when I was in the theater first watching that, I was horrified because it's like I have no idea where this is going to go.
The scene that was most the sort of I found the most like disturbing was the scene where he fucking smothered his own mom.
Oh yeah, that was the point of no return for him.
Yeah, dude, no, like I understand why he did it, like finding out that your mom like pretty much allowed you to be. Well, I wouldn't even go so far as to say allowed, because she was mentally ill. But like, what would that do to a person? I don't even know. I don't even know where to begin to understand how to relate to something like that. But like, the most terrifying thing about the scene is that like, the whole time you're watching it and you're seeing what he's doing, at least me, I don't know about you, I didn't 100% condemn his actions. It wasn't like, oh yeah, good, you killed your mom, that's what she deserved. No, that's not what I mean. I'm just saying, like, I could see what he was doing, and I knew that on a lot of levels it was wrong, but at the same time,
this is too far.
I understood that like what he had discovered had just pretty much broken him altogether. Not that he was that stable to begin with. Like the whole thing where he was like imagining his relationship with that
Murray Franklin?
Yeah.
Or you're talking about like the woman?
The chick from Domino from Deadpool 2.
Oh yeah, Zazie Beetz. We gotta talk about her here in a bit.
She also did a great job, but like, you just saw how like fragile his psyche and his ego were, and it was the straw that broke the camel's back. But it's just such a sudden and terrifying descent into madness.
Yeah, and speaking of Zazie Beetz, that's one thing that I was actually kind of worried of when I was watching the movie for the first time, because I was like, wait, why is she acting like this? Why is she just leaping into his arms like I was like...
Yeah, no, I also was sort of confused about that. I thought, like, is she gonna be like a Harley Quinn or something? Or
I was about to think that,
but then I think that the way they handled it and what they did, like, that was a real...
revealing that she wasn't even...
real fucking head trip, bro. I was like, wow, dude, that's insane. He was just imagining it the whole time, and then it just showed you short little flickers of what was actually happening. It was enough to tell you that, like, this guy's crazy. He's imagining these things, and then he was in her apartment. Speaking of that scene, do you think he killed her?
I was about to say that. I was like, we never see them ever again.
Yeah, and then you hear that noise when he's in his apartment laughing after he leaves her apartment, and then you also hear sirens and stuff, but like, you never hear somebody entering her residence or screams or anything. So it's really open to interpretation.
I think they're probably dead.
I think there's a chance that they might be, but throughout the whole movie, the one thing that I will say is that he never seemed too inclined to hurt kids. He usually just wanted to make them laugh, or you know.
Also, they didn't do it. They technically didn't do anything wrong to him. Like, because like that's one thing. Like, yeah. Because like, I mean, this also goes into another scene with the little.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
sorry,
no.
Not the little guy.
I'll probably bleep that out.
No, dude. I only said because they called him in the movie.
But like that scene, when I first saw it, it was terrifying.
It was terrifying to watch, especially when he was like friggin' like messing with him, like And I was just like, dude, he's gonna.
You were laughing your ass off at that.
Yeah, that was hilarious. I was like, dude, he's gonna fucking.
And then the door lock.
Yes, dude, that was the best.
I was like,
the entire movie theater was laughing at that, bro. Me included, dude. The door lock.
When I saw them in the first, like when I first saw it, I was like, oh no, he's gonna die.
Do you think you're gonna lock the door? And I was like, okay, this is the part where like Arthur walks up behind him and then picks him up and rips off his head.
Like, but like, nope, he just says, no, you can go.
No, you can go. You were the only one that was nice to me.
And he gives him a little kiss on the head.
Yeah, like, but that was the other thing that sort of made me doubt, because when I first saw the scene where he walked into her apartment and she was like, I think you're in the wrong apartment. One thing that was in my head was like, yeah, dude, she's dead. He killed her. But then, you know, I saw that scene with the big guy and the little guy, and then I thought, okay, well, it seems that he's only really after people that he's like perceived to have wronged him.
Yeah.
And she barely really noticed him ever. I'm pretty sure he like followed her once, but even then, like, she never did anything to him really. Neither did her child.
Yeah, so like it is a really interesting question that brings up. I forgot to mention this. The music, it's actually, I haven't seen the show, but apparently it's done by the same composer of Chernobyl.
Okay, I really did enjoy Chernobyl. I did, and yeah, I did hear some things that sort of reminded me of that, especially a lot of the string work. But yeah, if you haven't seen Chernobyl, it is really good.
Yeah, I do want to try to see it. Another thing I really, really loved was what's his name? Arthur goes up to young Bruce Wayne. That was creepy as all hell, because like it's also kind of surreal seeing like it's like this little kid, and he's I mean, we don't really know for sure, because I mean this is a standalone film, but we're seeing this little kid meeting what will become his
mortal enemy, his literal mortal, and the antithesis of everything that he grows up to become.
Yeah, and
it was very surreal. I was like, what?
And it's just
is this a fever dream?
And it's so creepy considering
he sticks his fingers in his mouth and makes him smile. I was like, dude,
it's bad enough just creeping up on kids, but putting your fingers
in their mouth, bro. I was so uncomfortable with that scene.
That sounds like some Dan Schneider shit.
I loved it. I loved it. I loved the scene. I loved the movie because it really it does a really good job of making you feel incredibly perturbed and just uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's the main thing about this movie. It makes you feel uncomfortable, and oddly enough, one of the things that I was like that again, if you told me in principle it was going to happen, I would have been like, really, again? But I don't know why. For some reason, every time we see the Waynes die, they always do something really, really cool and interesting with it. Yeah. Like even in Batman vs Superman, which I think still has my favorite showing of the death of the Waynes, it's done so poetically and with really cool slow-mo and whatnot and great music. And then this one, it really does bring the whole thing to full circle, because whenever there's a lot of good, there's always going to be something bad that comes out of it, and whenever there's a lot of bad, there's always a lot of, and there's always going to be one spark of good. Bruce Wayne and
becoming the Batman.
Yeah, like that was. And honestly, I actually wouldn't have minded if it was Joker who did it, personally.
I wouldn't have either. I just felt like it would have been a little too cliched and expected. If you really think about it, he kind of did. Like, he
did. Yeah, that's the thing.
You know, if he was responsible for it. If he wouldn't have shot, what's his Robert De Niro's character?
If he hadn't shot
shot him in the face.
No, I mean like the three
subway dudes. None of this would have been possible.
Yeah, and like it was just, and that one thing at the end where he's laughing at this joke and she says, "Can you tell me that joke?" And he's like, "You wouldn't get it." And that cuts to young Bruce Wayne standing in front of his parents.
Because he probably caught wind that Thomas Wayne was slain. I mean, that would be pretty huge news. It'd be hard to miss.
I mean,
he's probably really happy about it.
I mean, especially this kid, like, is just standing in front of his dead parents, but not even able to process it. Like,
for me, this probably has my personal favorite showing of the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne, because the way they did it was just awesome. They included pretty much everything that's in your classic.
The pearls,
Thomas Wayne trying to defuse the situation unsuccessfully, but I just loved how
it built up.
Yeah, it built up, but in the world that we've seen, this world gives you a pretty good taste of how people are, and for the most part, the rules followed. It shows that people, for the most part, in Gotham around that time are pretty bad. And the way this happens, the guy doesn't even think twice about it. He literally walks up to Thomas Wayne, shoots him before he can get a single sentence out of his mouth, and then shoots his wife and rips her pearls off of her neck. Like, it was just... It was tough, dude. It was rough. It was... Wow.
And it was really... what's the term I'm looking for? It was really ballsy of them to make Thomas Wayne a dick. He's a pretty bad guy.
He's I mean, I wouldn't say bad guy. I mean, he's not as bad as the Joker, but like,
he's not a
cock for sure. He's
a
the
dick.
Kind of guy that money has spoiled him absolutely. He doesn't give a shit about anybody else unless they have money. He treats everyone like shit, and honestly, like, that I really liked that scene where he called everybody that was poor and struggling clowns. I was like, yikes.
Apparently, Alec Baldwin was originally going to play him.
I would have liked to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with this guy in the role. Like, he did a great job.
He did. Yeah.
But man, it would have been so interesting to see Alec Baldwin in this role, because it's it's not really because of Saturday Night Live, but it's like, I don't know. But
I feel like he definitely could have pulled it off.
Yeah.
Like, with things like Boss Baby and his SNL stuff, he definitely knows how to play a rich asshole.
I mean, yeah. But I was trying to make a Boss Baby joke, but like, I don't know. I mean, but like, man, I'm trying. Did you notice that? Like, remember in the beginning they were talking about giant rats in Gotham?
Yeah.
Did you ever see any of them?
No.
There were. I didn't catch it the first time, but there's a couple of scenes where, like whenever a scene's going on outside, you actually see big ass rats like running around, like, and they're huge.
That's interesting. I didn't see. I knew I missed some things, and that's one of them.
It's one of those things. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I think it's supposed to be like one of those things where, like, you know, when you see these dancers or whatever, and you see, there's a gorilla that walks behind them, but you never notice it.
Yeah, because your brain's not really looking. But it also works to sort of keep the immersion and continuity around, because like if you see that after hearing them talk about it, it does a really good job of like immersing you in the surroundings and the world and what's going on, because like you're seeing everything that they're talking about on the media and news, so it sort of resonates with you more. But I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and the Murray Franklin show scene, that was in, like, when I was watching the movie, I actually thought he was going to kill himself.
Yeah, no, I had a 50-50. I knew that it was going to end one of two ways: that he was either going to shoot himself in the face and that was going to be the end of the movie, or he was about to gun down Murray and a bunch more shit was about to happen. And
yeah, and like, and that has probably one of the best lines of the year, where he makes his joke: "What do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash? You get what you fucking deserve." Good God, that line is like, I mean, oh my God, like, what do you think of that line?
It was strong. It was powerful for the scene that it was you know, portraying, because, you know, he did feel like that. He did feel that, like, any way for him to get help was just either taken away from him or unattainable. And he felt that he had been just rejected and thrown to the streets by society, and so he felt that he was, you know, justified in the violence and wrath that he was bringing down upon it, so to speak. I mean, not that he was, because, you know, no matter what happens to you, you shouldn't do those things.
Yeah.
But it was powerful. It was really strong, and it does really point to a problem nowadays in society, where you have people like this that do things like these. They feel like, you know, there's no other way for them to be heard or helped, so they have to resort to hurting other people so that they feel like they've been heard. And I think it was a really powerful statement in the movie, and that it was really a sort of definitely a good message to make people think about.
Yeah, and a couple of other things. One thing is that the whole condition he has when he laughs, apparently that's actually a real thing.
Yeah, no, I know. I do know about that. There's I don't know if you've ever seen this meme where it was from this show called Intervention, and it was this African American family, and they're all sitting around, and his son is talking to his dad about how his addiction has hurt him, and then his dad just like starts screaming like, ah! But he's actually like crying, but it's like, it's super funny in a way that makes you feel like shit for laughing, because he's crying. But yeah, no, it is a real condition, and I did know about it beforehand.
Yeah, and another thing I loved in this film, that I like, they didn't in this screening, but I've seen like clips and whatnot where people were applauding at this scene, and honestly, I feel like it's the most heartbreaking scene in the movie. Well, at least one of them, where he finally stands up on the car and draws that smile on his face with his own blood.
Yeah,
that was. Like, some people were like, I've seen clips where people were like, yeah, like applauding, like he's finally the Joker, but I'm like, I think this is actually probably one of the most heartbreaking things in the film, because this is what you finally get. Like, this is what you like. This is what
it's like him finally accepting like what he's become.
Yeah, and this is the end result of what happens when you know, when society just treats people like garbage. And
not even that. It's a mixture of a lot of things, and that's really what I think the point of the movie was. It's not just society doing this stuff to him. I mean, he's obviously broken as a human being, so like obviously he's not good at dealing with stress and, you know, everyday things that people might be able to deal with, so he vents those frustrations and grievances in an unhealthy way, aka gunning 3 guys down in a subway, stabbing some dude to death with a pair of scissors, shooting a talk show host in the face, all that good stuff. It doesn't have a simple answer, because like that's the thing about the movie, and that's the thing that I really enjoyed. It's not just, you know, one day he's fine, the next day he's the Joker. It's a small, over time, smaller things. It's like a snowball effect.
Yeah, one
thing, but then it just keeps piling up and piling up and piling up until you just can't take it anymore. And paired in with the awful surroundings of where you live and stuff, it creates a monster. And I thought that was a really cool sort of message.
Yeah, and I just thought, again, I think this movie was absolutely brilliant. It is this is so different from any other comic book movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I'd probably even say it's more realistic than even the Dark Knight trilogy.
I would agree with that, for sure, because the only thing really that drags down to the Dark Knight trilogy in terms of realism is like all the gadgets and stuff. Even then it's explained well, it's just still,
and even that's not even a bad thing against those movies.
Yeah. No, it's just, I'm just saying, like, this movie is very grounded. That's another thing that I was going to talk about too. You can see it in, like, they did a really good job with sort of like sticking to a time period, or choosing a time period and then sticking to it, because like all the cars and stuff, you feel like this could be taking place in like the late 70s, early 80s or something. You definitely feel like you're looking, when you look at where it's taking place, you know that that's not today, that this is the city's past, so to speak. And I thought that was really cool. And
not only that, but like, because it's set in 1981, I think this is actually when it takes place. Like, he can get away with a lot more shit.
Yeah,
like there's not as much security.
Like getting a gun into a children's hospital. Like, yeah, you could probably done that in 1981 for sure. But today, fucking forget about it, dude.
Yeah, like that was another scene where it was both really funny and really terrifying.
Yeah,
it's like,
I thought, oh no, he's gonna blow a hole in a child. Ah. But no, nothing happened, and I was so happy because I was like, dude,
this is a movie
I'm clenching.
This is a movie that perfectly balances comedy with really, really harsh shit that goes on. It is like, man, like this is like I cannot overstate how great I think Joker is. This is a masterpiece of this genre. I definitely think it's in my, like, it's probably, again, if I put the Dark Knight trilogy at if I clump that together at number 1, Joker would probably be at number 2, maybe. Yeah. But man, like this, I have no words to describe this. Like, this is such a great look at mental illness, capitalism, everything.
Yeah.
I mean, your final thoughts?
My final thoughts, I can't stress how much of a good job they did with this movie. It was easily, probably, between this and Endgame, my favorite comic book movie of the year.
Yeah, I agree.
It was well executed. They had a lot of really top talent working on it, and their hard work really shows in every scene, because every scene really feels realistic. Like, you feel like you're listening to people talking, and it's you almost get lost in, and you have to remind yourself that you're watching a movie and stuff. It's great. I think that they handle the very, very mature and sort of hard to talk about subjects that they talk about in this movie with they handle them perfectly. They shed light and not really inform, so to speak, but just sort of tackle the questions that they shoot to ask with, I guess a good word for it would be professionalism. You never feel like, they're making a sort of a joke about anything. Not to say that, it's so serious that you can't have fun, because there are a lot of funny moments in the movie too. But it's a really strong piece of film, in my opinion, especially with all of the questions about society, mental illness, and our effects on other people that it asks and poses. I think they did a super, super good job with this movie, and
I can't. And what do you think of Joaquin Phoenix's Oscar chances?
I think that they're pretty high. I hope. I know it's wishful thinking, but I hope he can snag one for Best Actor, because, dude, he really did he gave 110% in this movie. And it really shows. Shows.
I mean, yeah, when you cast the guy who played the lead character in the hit Disney movie Brother Bear, you know you're going to get some success with his performance.
Yeah, for sure. He did a great job. Like, he was one of my favorite parts of the movie, if not my favorite part of the movie. There's a lot of stuff to choose from, but he really consistently just had this on-screen presence that was just it was impossible to miss him in a scene, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was literally in every scene of the movie. And, like, now, when it comes to who's the best Joker, him or, like, Joaquin Phoenix or Heath Ledger, I don't know if I can really compare the two, honestly, because one of them was a supporting character who you didn't know anything about, and the other one was, you know, a character, like the lead character who you saw
They all have their own strengths and weaknesses. I really don't even bother tackling that question. I don't have, like, a favorite one. I like all of the Jokers that have been cast for different reasons, for the most part. But I do think he definitely deserves to be up there with Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, as in the running for the best portrayal of this character, especially because of I mean, I feel like it's a little unfair because we've never gotten, like, a movie where it was just him, you know, and those actors obviously didn't get the same chance that he did, but I still think, nevertheless, like, he did an amazing job.
Yeah, and fun fact, he's the, after Cesar Romero, I think he's actually the second live-action Latino Joker.
Yeah,
Joaquin Phoenix is Puerto Rican.
Yeah, I did know that.
Yeah, so yeah, guys, that's the spoiler review for Joker. Again, you've seen Joker at this point if you're watching this review, or maybe you don't care about spoilers. I don't know.
Yeah, so either way, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. You're not going to regret it.
Yeah, it's so good. Like I said, this is already blowing up the box office. This is already blowing up the box office. Like, I think this movie's probably gonna make more money than people thought it originally would, because
I hope so, because it's good.
Because, like, the Joker, I think people underestimate how popular, like, how big of a box office draw the Joker is. Yeah. So yeah, guys, that's about it for our spoiler review of Joker. We're gonna try to get a new Hannahcast going. Probably gonna give our top 10 favorite comic book movies, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So that's about it, guys. See ya.
Peace out.
Dab your memes.